This is Randall Root, and in this video we're going to be starting our series on MDX programming. To start the series, the first thing we're going to do is look at setting up the MDX demo files. So there is a pre-made cube database that we will be using for the future videos and demonstrations. So in order to be able to run or test your code in those future videos, you'll need to have the MDX demo set up. That's what we're going to talk about right now. So first thing to do is to locate the files that you'll need to restore the database backup. And these database backup files are the pubs bi cubes ABF file, that's an analysis server backup file, and also a restore analysis server database using the ABF file, XMLA file. And this XMLA file is another language beyond MDX that the analysis server can use to process commands. Usually XMLA language is used to create things or do certain management tasks, while MDX, which is the topic of this series of videos, is about querying, getting information out of the cubes in a database. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, and we'll need to go ahead and open the XMLA file. Probably the best thing to do is make sure you have a connection available to analysis server, and you'll verify that it's actually running. You can do this by going to the connect option, connecting to analysis server, and then choosing analysis server from the drop down box if it's not already chosen. Let me show you an example. If I were to just go through and say, let's see, connect Object Explorer, the drop down box appears, in which case I can choose from various different choices. The database engine is for SQL code. Analysis server engine is for MDX, XMLA, and DMX. Reporting services is for doing certain management tasks with reporting services, and integration services, also certain management tasks with Microsoft's integration services, or SSIS. So the two choices you use for coding is the database engine and analysis server. And for us, since analysis server is our topic and it is used for MDX, XMLA, I don't think that particular color is very good to see, and DMX, data mining expressions, of course that's the one we're going to choose. Now as of 2010, analysis server comes with two basic choices. You can either install the database analysis server database engine as a cube engine or a tabular engine. I have both installed on this machine, and you have to make a choice during the time of installation. If you've been following other parts of the video series on business intelligence and working with analysis server, no doubt you've already got the cube engine installed, and so I would know which server that would be and connect to it. In this case, it's just my local installation, so I could either use localhost, or excuse me, my default installation, or of course the name of my computer is shown here. Now once I'm connected, I may not have databases yet, or I may have several. Typically I have tons of little databases on here, but for this video I've gone ahead and cleaned it up by deleting them. I don't mind deleting them because I have backups of them, and once you have a backup you can always go ahead and restore it. The way you restore a backup is pretty easy. You just right click on the database folder and say restore. At that point you can go and browse for the files and then restore the database and even overwrite the existing one if you want. There are a few gotchas though. First of all, when you hit the browse button You may not have all the choices you would normally expect. You'd expect it to start off on C drive, and then you'd be able to browse directly from C drive and find the files you want. But Analysis Server does not allow you to do that by default. To Microsoft's credit, they do actually tell you how you can resolve this or fix it. You can basically go to the server properties for allowing browsing folders, and that particular property determines which file appears in this dialog box. So if you would like to add and remove folders, you need to go to the property dialog window and edit that particular property. Okay, great. I'm glad you guys at Microsoft told me to do that, so I will follow those instructions. I'll right click and go to the property window, and when it comes up, I will look for the actual instruction of the allow database. What was that? The allow browsing location? I don't remember. So, oops. I'll try it again. I should have paid more attention, huh? Okay, here it is. Allowed browsing folders. Got it. And I'll come back over here and I'll look for it. And it's alphabetical. It was allow something, allowed database or browsing folders, but it's not showing here. So at first it's like you feel like you're being tricked, but you're not. Turns out that there's a lot of settings that just don't show up in here unless you check this little box down here that says show advanced all properties. Once that's checked, you'll finally see that allowed browsing option, and you'll notice that there is a default value, there is a current value, and a value. The value is what you change. Current value is what it's currently set at. Default value is what it would be set at if you first did the installation. This is actually an alias, if you would, to identify the data folders of your installations. Some things in Analysis Server require you to go through and restart the server, and other things do not. If it requires that you restart not your computer's operating system, but just the Analysis Server itself, it will say yes. If it doesn't say yes, it means that you do not have to restart it to be able to make this adjustment. The values can be set by just giving yourself some room. I think I'll make this full screen so we can see it a little bit better. As you can see, it's pretty long already. And then it is kind of hard to see, but if I zoom in here, I'll notice that the way it works is you have a particular path, and then the path ends right here with a pipe symbol, which is a bit unusual. Usually they use things like semicolons and stuff to separate it, or commas, but that's not happening in this configuration screen. It's actually a pipe symbol. Now the pipe symbol on the typical American keyboard is the key just above the enter key on your keyboard, and you will just below the backspace key on that keyboard as well. So it's just a straight up and down symbol, straight line, vertical line. So if I would like to change this, I will just go to the front here, put in C:\\, that indicates the root of C, and put in the pipe symbol. Now I'll separate the symbols a little bit so that it's easier to see. So this is the new stuff I added. And then I'll take out the spaces so that it will actually work. And that's it. Now the current value has not been changed yet. That's because, well, we haven't hit the OK button. But once we hit the OK button, that change will immediately occur. And now when we go back and we say we'd like to restore the database, and we hit the Browse button, we will see that C drive is now available, and I can just go down and navigate to wherever those files are at. And see, my files currently on this one are under class files, etc. Access is denied. Now it's not uncommon for this to happen. In fact, I'm kind of glad it did. It may well be that I have not opened this particular session of Management Studio as administrator. It does say administrator here at the top, so that may not be it. And it is not uncommon for the Windows Vista 7 and 8 series to lock me out of particular folders. It happens. So if that were to occur to you, the easiest way to resolve it is just make a brand new folder and put your backup file in there. Of course, other options would include going through and providing permissions to the analysis server service engine. For my choice, I think the probably the easiest thing to do would be to make a brand new folder, because I think most of my students are going to be a little unsure about this. And I think I have a folder here called BI Solutions. If I remember right, I made that pretty recently. I should be able to access it. In fact, maybe I should test it. Restore, browse, see, and I'll go down here, BI Solutions. And I can get into that one. Great. So since I can get into that one, I should be able to go through and utilize that. And if I take the analysis server backup file and place it, where'd you go? Place the backup file in that folder, I'll be able to access it from there. Of course, I probably should keep it somewhat organized, like maybe putting it in this folder specifically designed for publication industries. But it would kind of be up to me as far as how I want to organize my files. I'll paste it right in there, BI Solutions, and just demonstrate how to restore the backup. There it is. Now, in a SQL Server database backup file, there's metadata that you can extract from the backup file and then just go through and pull down the existing name of the database. But in this case, that's just not happening. We're not getting metadata from there. So I need to go ahead and type in the name of the database I want to restore to. And you got to be kind of careful about this, because if you're using my pre-made code or you're reading through examples of the chapter on MDX programming that I've written, what's going to happen is that the name of the database is going to be important. Otherwise, your code and my code is going to look very different. Storage location is really kind of immaterial to us. Basically, you can think of an analysis server backup file as a kind of a fancy zip file. And as such, it doesn't quite have the same structure as a SQL Server backup file, the standard database engine. I'm going to go ahead and check to allow the database to be overwritten if it does exist. It does not exist, but I've had students have this fail, and it's usually because they didn't realize it already existed or whatever. So I'll just check that as a precaution. I'm not going to deal with security stuff right now, so I will just uncheck that, and there's no partitions or anything like that. So once I have it done, I can hit the script button and it will write some code for me, or I can just hit the OK button and it'll perform the action. The database may not show at first, but that's normal. It's a manual refresh, so you'll see it there. And inside, you'll find that there is a cube in various dimensions. And now we can start using MDX queries against that cube. In addition to that, since I hit the script button, I will see code up here that I could use to go ahead and run to restore the backup instead of actually going through the user interface. I gotta say, in some ways, especially if you don't have to type it all out, it's easier. Watch. Let me go ahead and delete this database. Okay, it's no longer there. and I will just highlight this code and execute it. Let's see here. We're connected. I don't see the execution option. This is not um, this is not unusual, but if I go up to the query window, I should be able to see the execute option, and I'll hit that and it'll actually go through, execute the query. It looks a little odd the way it goes through and does a restore, but eventually it will come back with either an error message or some results. The results are in XML format, kind of meaningless. But under the message tab, you can see, execution complete, restore started. It doesn't actually say restore succeeded, but if you don't see an error message there, you're probably in good shape. And certainly if you browse over here and refresh, you should see you're back in business. Now, if somebody gave you the code already to restore the database, you could just use that code. And that's exactly what I did. If I go here and say File, Open a File, navigate down to the module files. Now, I use this particular video in a number of classes, but they all revolve around this chapter 14. So whether you're just reading it from my book on your own or you're in one of my other classes besides this 205 class, it's all the same process. And what you're looking for is this restore as analysis server database using the ABF file. And if I double click on that, it'll open up and I'll see I have the code already written. The thing is that whenever you get code like this, you have to check the path. If I go ahead and run this code as is, it cannot find that folder. And I should expect that to be true. Instead, this file is in a different location. So I either have to, choice 1, move this file to this location, or choice 2, edit this location. Let's see, BI Solutions, I think was the name of the folder. C drive underscore BI Solutions, C drive underscore BI Solutions, and there's a file. And now if I run this code, it returns, execution complete, and we're back in business. Of course, I didn't delete it first, so you just have to trust me that it actually worked this time. But the key is that most people make the mistake of they forget to change this part. Hopefully we'll clear that up. Also, if you had changed the database name here, you could have a couple different copies of the same database. Sometimes that's handy for versioning control and testing things and the like. This particular language is the XMLA language, and if you look up here, there are several buttons that pertain to analysis server. MDX is the query language for querying the cube. DMX is for querying a data mining model, data mining expressions. XMLA is for doing tasks like what we're seeing here, such as backups and restores, and actually it also does creation statements, such as creating a new dimension or creating a new cube. You can use XMLA to actually just create the cube from Management Studio, but most of the time you'll use Visual Studio and let the wizards and the user interface help you write that code. The other icon you see here, just alongside of it, is for Transact SQL. And unfortunately, apparently the budget didn't have in it the ability to task somebody putting SQL on there. So you just have to be in the know that that is the SQL button. If you press that, it'll make a standard database, relational database query using the structured query language. So that's how you get the demo all set up, and after that there's one more thing you probably should do. You should go through, make a new MDX query window, and test to make sure that the database can be used and the query can be a query can be written to the database. Now, I would have liked it if Microsoft would have slid this little dialog window or this toolbar over to the right a little bit so it lined up better with this tab. Perhaps they didn't because they figured you'd have this collapsed. I don't know. But this drop-down box determines which database you are going to work with. So I choose the database I want to work with, and then I write some simple code. Select from and the name of the cube. My cube is called cube pub sales, so I'll type in cube pub S sales, cube pub sales, and I can see this in my little miniature browser here. Of course, I could also see it over here in the Object Explorer window. Either way works. This feature over here is a nice convenience. You know, you'd think you'd put a star here, and you would if I was working with Transact SQL. You'd be select all from the name of the table. This is similar, but in MDX we don't put a star, but we do put the name of the cube. Remember, a cube is basically like a table in an analysis server. One database can have many cubes, just like in SQL Server, one database can have many tables. So very similar in concept. You highlight the code that you wish to run and you execute it. You can either go up here to the execute bar, menu, because of the way we connected the MDX, we now have a toolbar we can use to execute. You can hit the F5 button, or you can even right click and say execute. You have a lot of choices. If you get back the number 823, that means your cube is running. Actually, if you don't get any error messages, that means your cube is successfully restored, and you can move on to the next part of the video series, which is talking about MDX basics and how to program an MDX. So that means I'll close these windows now, and I'll get prepared for working with the basics of MDX, and I'm going to shut this video down, and I'll see you in the next video, in which case we'll start discussing that. Thanks for watching.